Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the masterclass today. Um, we are starting a bit late. It's quite strange that people have not joined in yet. Usually, we are in 5 minutes ahead of the session. Anyway, we'll start and let the others join in as and when they come in. So, in today's session, we're going to hear an experience about senses. And myself, Ashwini, I am an ACC coach and coming from an HR background, I'm here to host Deepa delivering this masterclass today. To talk a little bit more about Deepa, she is a leadership facilitator, coach, and a self mastery expert. She's very intrinsically and consciously committed to uplift the human consciousness around and beyond. She is somebody who is very keen on enabling inside out transformation, bringing in balance to the inner energy that we carry and how we use the inner energy, integrating it with the outer energy as we live in the outer world. So, transformation is something which is second nature to her in every work that she touches and every person that she works with, every group that she works with. She comes with an expansive background from the HR profession, having been into L&D, OD, and multiple other roles that she's handled for quite a few years. And then she's also taken over independently on her own, being a leadership facilitator and a coach. So here we are today, going to hear about senses from all of her. Even before, until a month back, I had no idea there were 12 senses, and I always thought there were just 5 senses. And 5 senses is very easy to name. We're always taught about it. It's always there to experience, feel it. And the moment I heard the number 12, I had no clue what could be there, what else could be there beyond these 5 senses. And with my journey so far, I've always experienced and I was introduced to how depriving the senses could help you go within. But reading about Steiner's work and hearing Deepa, this is the first time I understand activating the senses, energizing the senses also could actually help you go within and beyond and be active in the outside world as you function in the many vast roles that all of us play. So here we have Deepa. Over to you, Deepa, to talk more about the 12 senses introduced by Steiner, and over to you.
Thank you. So I'm happy to be back yet again into this space with the Coaches Circle coaches and whoever is here actually. And I thought of this topic actually a few months back, and this particular topic I've been very interested in right from, I don't know, maybe 12, 14 years ago when I got introduced to Steiner's work. So Dr. Rudolf Steiner is the founder of anthroposophy. And it's the study of the whole human being, the human being with the thinking, the feeling, and the willing, which is the hands, the heart, and the head. And he talks about human development in a way which is psycho-spiritual. So my children studied in a Steiner school, and I was extremely interested in the way Steiner explores the human being and in the way Steiner builds education, which is in the education field, it's called Waldorf education, and how it builds. So that's why I would say my children are my first teacher, because they led me into anthroposophy when I was looking for something for them. And thereafter, I became a practitioner. I did my certification in biography, looked at human beings from this lens. Even when I was a therapist, while I had the psychological lens, I always had the spiritual lens. And then, what led me deeper into it is my parenting journey, because Steiner's work and my children being in a Waldorf school, education actually starts from home, not in school. School and home, we are partners. So I remember once, I very clearly remember that my younger son was in kindergarten, and the teacher called me, and the teacher told me that your son puts mud in everybody's pants. And it's really annoying. And I remember that one day when I had gone for the parent-teacher thing, so few parents said, "Oh, you are Arush's mother. Oh, you are Arush's mother." So suddenly I realized I'd become famous, but not in the right way. It concerned me. At that time, I was not so self-aware. I was just getting into the Steiner's work, etc. And when I had a conversation with the teacher told me that uh, he does not understand boundaries. He does not understand where he ends and where others start. And that was a live wire for me because I was in therapy at that point in time. And my therapist had told me exactly the same thing. So I'm like, mere jaisa ban jayega. You know, I am so old. Now he also will have so many holes. I was so scared. But I think as I went into Steiner's work and understood biography, and when I understood the 12 senses and the temperaments, I understood what I could do to correct it. Fast forward, my son is turning 16 this month. And I know for sure that he has great sense of boundaries. He has learned much faster than I did because I did not have these interventions which I could deploy on him. And which is why uh, Okay, which is why I felt the need to share my thoughts on the 12 senses, and also wherever I can give you examples, I can bring that to you because I use this frame even in coaching, in leadership, in every aspect of my life. Wherever I can give you examples, I will do that. I'm just going to share my screen. So I've called it befriending the 12 senses. To make friends with what are the 12 senses. So, like Ashwini said, we all know five senses. Same here. Even I just knew the five senses. But Steiner has given us the 12 senses. And he says, I call it sensing leadership because leadership is not just logic and action. It's about presence. It's about perception and connection. And the 12 senses allows us to bring our presence, perceive things, and connect. So it's a great way to enter into this world, which is also very important in our coaching journey. So uh, everything we have in us and what we experience outside can happen through the 12 senses. So yeah, this is like the master slide, okay? I'll just explain to you what it is. If you look down, it is the lower senses. The lower senses, they are the physical senses. And typically this gets activated 0 to 7 years. And this is all about getting a sense of your own body. Yeah, I'll explain each of them in detail. But there are lower senses, then there are lower four senses, then there are middle senses. Middle senses are smell, taste, warmth, and vision. So this helps the child or the human being to connect to the outer world. First, they connect with the body, then they connect with the outer world, and then after activates the higher senses. The higher senses are your connection with higher order aspects, of cognition, of conceptualization and all of that. So you start with willing, which is physical movement, etc. Then you go to the feeling realm, and then you go to the thinking realm. So if I were to really, I couldn't draw it, but if I were to draw a infinity symbol, which is vertical, not horizontal, but vertical. The bottom would be the lower senses. The middle, the intersection would be the middle senses, and the higher order senses would be on the top. And you can look at this whole thing as a whole human being. So all of us have all these senses. Some of us have some sense more than the other. Each sense has a role to play. And when you understand, and the as you age, at 21, the last four senses come to its potential. Now, if, for example, we struggle with feeling confused about who am I, etc. That's the sense of ego. Now, Steiner says that if you want to develop the higher order senses, we have to go to the lower senses. So if concept is not there, then which sense to go to? If language is not there, which sense to go to? He shares that there is a connection between the higher and the lower senses. which means that as adults, we are 35, we are 45, we are 50. If we want to develop a particular sense, we can go back to the lower senses. So there is always a second, a third, a fourth chance for us to correct that. Yeah. So this is the in crux, the core. Now let's go to each sense and let's experience what each sense is. I'm just going to pause and ask if anybody has any question at this point in time.
Deepa, Varsha here.
Yeah, Vacha.
Could you help me reiterate again on the thinking, feeling? You said you were connecting with the three levels. So
Thinking, feeling, willing. Willing is
willing,
the lower senses.
so willing is the lower.
Lower. We always start, Steiner always starts with willing, which is why the 2 to kindergarten, which is 7, which is the fall of the first tooth. Earlier it used to be 7, now everything is fast forwarded. Till
Correct.
then is willing, which is why in kindergarten no books are introduced. Books are introduced for the first time at age 7. Because till then you experience with the willing, with your limbs.
Okay. Okay.
And then 7 to 14, you activate the feeling realm, because that's also puberty. Your feelings are all over. So the curriculum and everything is targeted to balance the feeling realm. And then you activate the thinking realm, which is reverse in other, if you look at any other education, you first go into thinking.
Correct.
Which
That's what
is
I was
why they say that a wholly developed child, a Waldorf child is a wholly developed child, because it follows the sequence of how it's meant to be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts from anybody? Feel free to put it up in the chat box also.
Oh, yeah. Sure. I'll move on.
We'll move on. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's build this picture step by step. Now, the way to imagine is to imagine a newborn. Yeah. So let's look at the lower senses. Lower senses are, let's start. The first sense is the sense of touch. So what happens is when the child is born, the child is held. And as I'm saying, what you can do is to keep touching yourself, in ways that will allow you can listen to me, but just keep touching yourself. So, a child is wrapped also in some places, they are wrapped in a cloth, because it just feels like it is wombed, even when it's outside. So this sense of touch is actually giving the child a sense of boundaries, a sense of, I am separate from the other, because till they are in the womb, they are one with the mother. Outside, they are separate. So it's the first awakening moment for the child when the child is held for the first time, that I am separate from the mother. There are two entities, there are different entities. So it's very, Steiner says that touch is separation and connection at the same time. It is separation from the other and it's connection with myself. So when you touch, you can see that you feel a sense of connection with yourself. Can you feel it? Yeah. So just take a moment to touch.
Deepa, when you say connection, what does connection exactly mean here?
That I am connecting with this part of my body. I am connecting with this part of my body. Or when somebody touches us, then we know that they are separate from me. That's an external touch to me. Yeah. Or children, if you see, they explore different textures. In fact, in a Steiner school, they are allowed to play with sand with different textures, because it is very important for the child to experience different textures and say, this is hot, this is cold. I can touch this. I'm not allowed to touch this. If I put the hand in the socket, then, there is this instant reaction. And it's a great experience for them to discover that I'm not meant to do that, rather than parents saying, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, this is whatever. So when they discover this, the sense of boundaries happen. Now, what I understood, and this is the primal one, what I understood is, for my son, This was the missing element. When the sense of boundaries are not present, the straight direction to go to is sense of touch. So what I did for years is I would give him foot bath and I would press his body, from top to bottom. And it was like a game for us. We would play. And when I would touch his feet, because under the feet also is very, very important to touch. So when I would do that, I would sing bhajans. And he used to love, when I sing. So I would do that and it was fun for him. And then what I'd done is I say, you're Krishna. And there would be a plate. And now Krishna keeps the feet. And I would narrate a story. And I would do all of that. And foot bath. For years, I did foot bath. So when he understands that my body ends here, and the skin is a separator, then what happens is he also knows that others also have a body. And the separation for them also, I am different from that body. I can do things to the other body. A lot of children who nudge, who push, because they don't understand that separation. So sense of touch is the most primal and important sense. For those, in their life, when the sense of touch is unfulfilled or compromised, abuse or neglectful parenting, they do face a lot of problem with boundaries. So the problem with boundaries would be either they would be very tight in their boundaries or they would be very loose in their boundaries. The midpoint, which is just right boundaries, is very hard for them to attain. And that causes a lot of issues, in adulthood, in relationships, in leadership, in getting work done from the team. I struggled a lot with it. So I used sense of touch for myself a lot to really set boundaries for myself. Yeah. And a great practice for this is to keep, whenever, we call it palming, whenever possible. You can even, just do it with me. You can put some pressure and then leave it and feel the sensation. Put some pressure and leave it and feel the sensation. So there is a sensation that lingers when you put that little pressure. Even press your feet on the floor and then leave it. So you feel that, and that brings and activates the sense of touch. So not always we need to go for a massage or get touch from the other. Sense of touch can be absolutely got from our own self to ourselves. Yeah. And Steiner also says that when there is the sense of touch is present, there is a lot of certainty we feel. There is a lot of clarity. And it is a human being's need. There is a deep longing for touch, because the longing for touch is to feel my presence in this world. So it's absolutely a very, very basic primal need, sense of touch. Yeah. And when I look at leadership, and I'm looking at leadership because I think we all have an inner and an outer world. So in the outer world, when I say leadership, what I see is how I come across with my boundaries and my presence. This also means that how I show up with my clients. What is the contract? Do we have a contract with them? Do I respect my time and do I respect their time? How we show up? How is my relationship with my team members? All of that has a relationship with sense of touch. Yeah. I'm going to the next sense, which is the life sense. Somehow it's my favorite. I'm going to invite you to just feel your body right now. Just look inside. You can close your eyes or keep your eyes open. And just observe every part from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Just quick glance. And identify How is each part feeling and how is it doing? Any responses to when you check in? What are you sensing? What are you feeling in your body? Anybody can unmute and share.
I think for me, my attention went to certain parts of my body where I felt a sense of heaviness,
Okay.
rigidity, or some sort of pull,
Yeah.
which is not pain really, but some sort of discomfort.
Yeah.
I could see that in my eyes, somewhere in my nose, my calf muscles,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sunita says attention to the place where there is
There's
tightness.
tightness. Okay. Yeah, I'm just seeing. My God, so many of us are sharing. I didn't see the chat.
Vasha says sense of touch can be. Vasha, you can also come over on video or audio and share, Vasha.
So for me, my attention went to the areas wherever there is a discomfort. Could be pain or could be a pull.
Yes.
Even the sitting posture, it wasn't okay. So kind of, anything that was giving me a discomfort to my body
Yes.
is
Yes.
all. I couldn't be at one point, but I was actually traveling to different locations.
Yes. Correct. Exactly. That's exactly the life sense. The sense or the life sense is when we feel our body. We feel, there are times when I've told the doctor that this part, I have, I used to have these gut issues, and I would tell him exactly on a scale of 1 to 10 how I feel, which part, which minutest part. And, at one point of time, he told me that I have never met a patient like you who exactly tells me where to look for. And it makes my life easy. And that is actually life sense. It's the sense of um, what is it that I'm feeling in my body. So there are a lot of people who actually do not feel pain, or whose threshold to feel pain is too high. In those cases, the sense of life is compromised. It could be because of enduring pain for a very long period of time, or even I've seen people who actually hold this belief that bearing pain is like a gold medal for me. So they have actually shut their life sense, which is actually very detrimental, because they will not know when disease is hitting them. They will know in the nth moment, and it's too late to rectify it. So actually, this life sense is what helps us to give that warning signal. And pain is that manifestation of life sense. And the awareness of the pain is the checking mechanism whether my life sense is okay or not. Okay. And with this sense, you experience your entire constitution. You may not know words because you've not studied medicine or anatomy, but you actually can describe, like you said, heaviness, lightness, like pain, like discomfort. And right from try this tomorrow. From the time you wake up, yeah, you will be able to see your life senses active. When you wake up, I always do this. When I wake up, the first thing, I call it, in Ayurveda, it's called Deha Darshanam, which is having the darshan of our body. So for me, it is like activating my life sense, entering into life with my life sense. So, and then Ayurveda also says Mala Darshanam, which is looking at the quality of your bowel movement. What is the composition of that? Because that also indicates your life sense. So that is constitutionally. And then the level of pain and whether I can articulate it, whether I'm sensing it. At different life stages, you would see this. Life sense also helps when especially a mother is giving birth to a child. Yeah. Then in key life moments, grief moments, people will, when your life sense is high, you will allow grief. When you have illnesses or when you're going to contract illness, I exactly would know when I'm going to get fever. There is that feeling. That is the life sense. It is, and this is my theory because I do not, I have not met anybody who has told me after death that what happened. But I have a sense that, like, I have observed my mother-in-law. Both of us knew exactly that when the day she's going to die. Both of us knew the day I woke up. Like, she had a premonition, I know. I knew I had a premonition. Both our life sense was active. And even before she died, I had given her the Tulsi water because I know she is going. So this is a very, very important sense. Yeah. And I've read places where a child doesn't even know when they have to poop, or pee. It's all last minute. That's life sense compromised. And in leadership, it translates as clear well-being, burnout. When there is burnout, like I experienced burnout when I quit my work. Clearly, my life sense was not active, imbalanced. So that's life sense. So touch and life sense are again two very basic life senses. I work with special needs children, and their life sense is compromised. Okay, so they really, even their body sense. So they'll hug you, they'll actually kiss you. They do not know where their body ends, where the teacher's body starts. They cannot distinguish it. And their life sense also. They cannot control their move their bowels and urine and all of that. So that is compromised. The even when you what do you call that, toilet training, that also is an indication of bedwetting is an indication of life sense. And in coaching, when a client shows up, when I look at the person, I know the life sense. So it's a great diagnostic tool to know what is their life sense, and then you can actually hold space for them from that understanding, from being informed about their life sense. But as a coach, our life sense has to be absolutely worked upon, because we are holding space for so many, we are taking their energies. So our life sense to be in the correct balance is very important.
Deepa, Sarabjot asks if life sense can be learned or
Yes.
taught.
Yes, life sense can be learned. See, for a child with special needs, it takes a long time. Yet it's possible. But for a child with, so like for example, I work with children with eurythmy. And how I work on boundaries is I work with forms, like a square form, because wahan corner hai, wherever there's a corner, they have to stop. They have to turn and then go. Stop, turn, go. That works on it works on life sense. So I work with movement with them. And for adults, because we have cognition and we know that this is not there, so to bringing in the awareness of my body, so checking in with the body is a great practice to do it.
Deepa, as an adult, as you were saying, to check in with the body, and okay, you check in with your body, you get a sense of either pain or whatever it is, and then is there anything more to do, or you just sense that and just leave it? I mean,
Then
how
you
does
take
that work?
action, whatever action you want to take. If you have a headache, then you
Hmm.
dialogue with the headache. And it will tell you, like, either you have to slow down or whatever you need to do, or sleep or
Mhm.
whatever.
So
You
doing
take
a
those.
dialogue with the body basically is
Yeah, you
what.
take those, whatever is the action. And when you check in, you'll know, you'll know it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what is the suggestion that you give? How periodically in a day uh, to be do a check-in with the body? Is it like
There is really no formula like that. Whenever
okay?
you feel the sense, or when you feel like fatigue, When
Okay.
there's fatigue and you recognize it, it's great time to pause. Or when you feel tired, when you feel you don't have energy, when you wake up without energy, it's a great time to check. Because waking up without energy means deep sleep is compromised, which means the toxins are not removed, which means what your prana shakti was supposed to do, it's not done. And that's a great indication.
Okay. Thank you.
The next is sense of life, self-movement. Now, this is not about moving. This is about really, do I have the awareness of what is happening inside? And this is actually about if I have that awareness, can I change? Can I change either my posture or my position in order to bring comfort to myself? So self-movement and life sense are very connected. So when we dialogue with the body, we are actually entering into self-movement, and we are going to make changes to our life to change it. So it is that awareness with which we, like for example, I had a client who would walk and she would dash a wall because she did not understand that I am this much in height and width and I can pass through this or not pass through this. She actually could not understand. And we worked together using the mandala to develop this sense. And I mean, I don't recall now, long ago I worked with her, but what then happened and what would happen is she would dash all the time. And in her mind, she's saying, I know I'm going to dash, but I still dash. So the mind does not understand that I won't be able to go through, which is self-movement. So if I understand that I won't be able to go through, then I'll correct myself or I'll adapt myself, squeeze myself. I won't go like that only. That is this sense. And that is connected to the life sense. Yeah. And the final lower sense is sense of balance. I'm going to invite you to, if you can just leave your desks and stand on one leg without holding it. If you can do that. Just try. You do it for a couple of minutes, couple of seconds actually. And then I'll tell you what needs to be done.
So can we place the other leg on the thigh or no? Just on one
Yeah,
leg?
your one leg is on the floor, the other one is lifted, like langdi karte hain na?
Okay.
Hopscotch.
Okay.
And just experience yourself, how you feel. And now place both feet on the floor firmly, your hands by your side, and have your spine really erect, which means you're actually growing. You're literally growing. As if something is pulling your head upwards and something is pulling you from down. Your feet are pulled from the down, your head is pulled from the up. And you are elongated. But do it with ease, not with a stretch. And you can come back. So how was your experience?
Reiki first, but
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
but then I think I was able to balance. And the stretching, not really the stretching, that part was very comforting. It was like, it felt as if, everything was loosened up like that.
Hmm.
We can go next.
Yes.
Hi, this is Swaroop.
Yes.
Standing on one leg was, not that difficult for me, but the stretching was, I think, pushing down and also lifting myself up through the spine was like was difficult because either I was able to push myself up or pull my, put pressure on the feet and pull myself down. So it was really like a vrikshasana we do in
Yes.
yoga.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Correct.
That was a little bit, but
Yes.
I could feel my spine basically.
You couldn't.
I could.
You could. Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Sunita, you
Right.
want to share yourself? I saw a chat. You can go ahead.
Okay. Is there a chat?
I was able to balance very well. Surprisingly, I haven't tried it for a long time. So I felt good. And that stretching really made me feel nice. It was very nice. Like
Yeah.
it was a feeling of being uplifted.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that standing straight with the palms next to each other, and we don't really have to. I mean, I just gave the imagery of a pull, but it's actually very comfortable. It's not really so much of a stretch, but it's to experience the whole spine because sense of balance, Steiner says, cannot be experienced without a reverse pressure. So you can't stand up if there is no gravity down. Okay, so it's a very interesting, when we are in the mother's womb, we don't experience sense of balance because there is oneness. To experience sense of balance, you need two-ness. You need a polarity. When you stand, when you crawl, like a child crawls and then sits, stands up and then runs. So there is gravity, then the child comes up. So he says, Steiner says, sense of balance is actually coming from the reverse pressure. From the gravity comes the levity. And that's how the sense of balance is experienced in middle. So it's balance is always related to something else, either some situation or somebody or something outside. So it is here where you actually feeling it inside, but you're also sensing it outside. It's inside and outside. This is where it starts, inside and outside. Really, this is the place of inside and outside. And that is sense of balance. And the biggest one for the leader is, can you be calm amidst chaos? And this was really challenged during COVID, where targets were not happening. How did the leader react? Did they take everybody along, or were they chasing targets and feeling flustered that nothing is happening and things would go topsy-turvy? So, and this happens with all of us. So this is really a space. All of these are energy mastery parameters. This is a very, very important one. And I know, Ashwini, this is very, very close to your heart. Balance as a word. So, it is really that you cannot exist without the polarity, but with polarity comes an issue also. So throughout life, we are balancing the balance. And it's a very interesting thing. If there is no polarity, then there is no life. So that's the best part. And Steiner also says that in antipathy, we grow, which means in the reverse, you grow. And when I look at the princess principle in nature, it's the tree. The seed first roots and then shoots. So that pressure down to up is also balance.
This is the same with the push and pull
Same,
also.
same. Any polarity, actually. And therefore, in coaching, working with polarities, when I was a therapist, polarities were a big part of my work because emotions were a lot at play. So as a therapist, I would completely work with polarities, with the body, with art, with sand play, and all the other materials. But even in coaching, most of the times when there's a dilemma, they are talking about a polarity. They are talking about an imbalance, and they're talking about an urge to balance, which means that they're talking about finding their stability amidst chaos. Okay, and therefore they are in front of us, and therefore we ask them the competency 3 also. All of that, where you're articulating exactly what you want to take away. And what does balance look like for you today in this session? That is what this is. Again, these are 4 very core senses. So if at like a lot of times, for me, when I am not decisive, or when I feel I'm all over, I would go back to the lower senses and ask myself, where am I not being in balance, or where is my life sense, not working? Then comes the middle senses. Middle senses are about emotional intelligence and connection. That's what Steiner says. Sense of smell, sense of taste, sight, and temperature or warmth. So sense of smell. Now, he beautifully, I love the imagery he gives. He says that sense of smell, we don't have a choice. And you feel a smell. Can you just pause? Like right now, I know in my kitchen something is cooking. I can smell it. I did not tell, no, you should not enter. It automatically enters. That's because I'm breathing all the time. And with that breathing, the odor goes into my bloodstream and I have a feeling about it. So a sense of smell is actually very intrusive. It is aggressive. We don't have a choice. Yeah. So through this sense, we are taking the world into us. And therefore, if your sense of boundaries is not alive inside and your life sense is not alive, that thing is going to overpower you. That thing could be relationships, could be people, could be situations, could be work, could be anything. So when Steiner says there is always a spiritual, a much bigger significance behind, yeah, there is a much bigger significance behind it. And it's surely connected to the lower senses and life sense. So if we know that this sense is overpowering, our life sense will tell us, no, I don't want this at this point of time. I can cut it off. But it will enter my stream. So look at your life right now. Yeah. And just take a couple of minutes of reflection in your life right now and see what is present in my life as experiences, as people, as situations, which I don't want, but which I have not told them. They have entered my life, but I have not told them I don't want you. Either I have not recognized it or I don't have the courage to do it. And make a quick note. And you can work on that. This sense is also connection to intuition and sensing the room, reading the room. The next sense is taste, and it's different from the sense of smell because here you have a choice. You go, you reach out, and you say, I choose to eat this, or I choose to taste this. And then I savor the taste and I experience this taste. So it is also connected to life sense, but the primary is not life sense. The primary is my choice. So here, Steiner says that to taste, to experience the sense of taste, a door has to be opened by me. So it's a conscious decision to make that a part of me, unlike a smell which has entered and become a part of me as an uninvited guest sometimes. And this is very clearly related to decision making and discernment. So when decision making and discernment exists, then my sense of taste is developed. I'm making choices. I'm making conscious choices. And there's a large probability that because it's my choice and conscious, I take responsibility for that. Because I've taken responsibility for the orange I've tasted or what I've eaten. So, at times when one has a health problem, diabetes, and I must not eat sweet, but then I go and eat it, my sense of taste is not developed. Also, my life sense is not developed because I do not know that when I eat it, what's happening to my system. I don't have that experience. And therefore, it's not connected. The next sense is sense of sight. And, this sight is actually related to colors and light. And so there is light and there is dark and there is all the shades in between. Yeah. And, and Steiner talks about dark. Basically, he talks about in the theory of color, what he talks about is I am allowing the dark to envelop me, but the light is inside. The light is inside, but I'm allowing the dark. And then when it's dawn, I'm pushing the darkness away and allowing the inner light to shine. That's how he describes. And sight is related to that. So which also means that when there is a suffering or a difficult situation, I'm allowing it. I'm not resisting it. I'm allowing it, knowing that my inner light is there. And when I push this, I know that my inner light is active enough for it to, inner light has pushed the darkness away, which is what happens every day, which is what happens in life. But do I have that nazar? Do I have that sight to focus on the details and the bigger picture, to look at it from this perspective? And therefore, then I make a choice. Do I feel sad about this suffering that I'm going through in terms of my emotion and thought? Or do I make it like my choice and I know that I will push it? And this brings really, it really is clarity that I have the light and I'll push it. So more and more, if you see that from the physical myself, I'm more and more going outwards and into thinking. Can you see this transition from the physical and the willing? I've gone into feeling and tasting and all of that. Now I'm coming into thinking. And this is the feeling of warmth. And he says temperature and warmth sense. Okay. So, of course, it's the physical warmth that I feel or not. It's also the psychological warmth. And one of the biggest one in coaching is trust. Okay, we spend so many sessions building trust first. And then, at times you don't even get into what you want to explore. You first build trust. You are ensuring that this warmth sense is taken care of. Parents holding their child. We holding our children, our clients. Or at the beginning, whenever I facilitate, I first do ways of working. Okay, what are the ways of working that we need to, as a group, write down so that we can have a fruitful learning session? I have activated the warmth sense. Every single session I start like that when I facilitate. So even with a group of leaders, this warmth sense can be present. In that, I see so many leaders share so many things which they've never shared before because they feel it's a safe space. So Today, there is so much about psychological safety and all of that. But it's the core. It's the core of connection. It's the core of coaching, it's the core of leadership, it's the core of teams, it's the core of everything. Yeah. And there is a connection of the lower senses with this. Sense of touch for sure are connected. This, when I have a client, and in therapy, when I was a therapist, all the time I would work on this sense only. Yeah. And once I know the first session, I know that warm sense would be off. And which is why working with the body was a very, very fruitful. Like all the movement practices that I would lead helps to develop the body sense and the warmth sense. So this, especially with, with when a child goes through trauma or abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, surely warm sense is compromised. And the what one can do is a great thing is foot bath, where you allow from the warm water, you allow warmth to come into your body from your feet. And foot bath is a great idea for warm sense. And finally, the higher senses. Higher senses, now we actually go into the cognitive depth. Sense of hearing. And Steiner says that sense of hearing is a spiritual sense. Sense of hearing was available even before creation happened. Yeah. So that is why when I practice eurythmy, we don't, our name is not DEEPA. It is the E per A. Because it is resonant with the universal sounds that are there in the cosmos. All our chanting, all the sermon that we hear in every religion is to do with this. And this builds, because you're listening to sounds, this is contributing to deep listening and presence, which is very, very critical in our work as coaches and facilitators. Sense of speech. This, this actually begins very early when the child develops vocabulary. It starts at that time because the child is able to express that I want this with the language. It starts with mother tongue and then goes into other languages. And the child is capable of learning multiple languages. So this allows them to express because they've got the gift of language. And with the gift of language, they're able to influence. So they can tell the mother, I want this, that. And as you grow up, you can tell whatever you want. You can express your love to your girlfriend. You can get married, and you can travel life. That's the sense of speech. Sense of thought. Now, this sense of thought is actually how we conceptualize. I used to find it very difficult to conceptualize because somewhere the sense of thought was not developed for me. And then I realized that if I club it with sense of sight and sound, my thought, gets pakka. So each one has something which is more. If you club it with that, then the higher order cognitive senses can develop. This is the final one, which is actually the I, the ego. But when Steiner says ego, he doesn't say the ego, which is the higher ego, the lower ego, sorry. He talks about the sense of who am I? If I ask you to answer, who am I? Just take a minute to think, who am I? This who am I is the highest order in the senses. And this starts at age 3. When the child starts saying I and not referring the name. And the child starts saying, I want to wear pink today. And if the mother or the father says, no, I know what you have to wear. the sense of ego is compromised. It's stunted. But when the sense of ego is very well developed, I am who I am. I know who I am, and I'm most authentic. And I'm expressing in that authenticity, which is what we all want. There's so much talk about authentic leadership. And Steiner talks about that as the sense of ego. I already shared this. Here's the final one, where he says that if you want to develop the sense of ego of who am I, if that's not developed, go to the sense of touch, because touch is compromised. If you want to develop the sense of thought, conceptualization, go to the sense of life. The life sense is not happening. If you want the sense of speech and language, go to movement, and sense of hearing or sound, then go to balance. So when you work with these lower order, when you are not able to work on these top higher senses, work on the lower senses. And when that happens, automatically this gets corrected. And for me, in my life, it's a testimony. For the last 4 years, 5 years, I've been working on the lower senses a lot. And this automatically is happening, especially the sense of ego and concept, which were not developed for me. So right now, if I do things last minute, if whoever I am, whatever I do, it's fine for me. I am like that. It's fine. And that's authentic of me. And there's no judgment. That's the sense of ego. And I worked on all these senses actually for that. So these are the 12 senses in a nutshell. And at this point of time, I want you to, Ashwini will put up a Mentimeter link. If you could write down which sense do I need to develop on to live effectively.
There is a link in the chat box. Just click the link. It will take you to the Mentimeter page.
It's just a quick check.
It asks you one question.
Can you write multiple answers?
Yeah, there can be 3 answers that they can give.
Yeah, so you can say in the order of what you want to develop.
Lakshan, can you click on present?
Okay,
Yeah.
can I stop sharing?
No, that's fine, Deepa. The question is just coming up.
Okay, I think I'll have to stop sharing. So
No, that's fine, Deepa. Now so all of you can start filling in there are 3 boxes. You can respond 3 different answers. Submit it. Deepa, you can keep the screen on with the, have you stopped?
if I say
Deepa?
join, then
Yeah, okay.
mine goes away. But that's fine.
Yeah. The question is, which is the one sense I want to develop further in my life to be more effective in life and leadership?
If anybody has any question, you could share, ask.
So, Deepa, what if a sense is an excess?
Yeah, that's possible. And we need to balance that.
Okay, so what's that process then? Toning it down or making some other a corresponding sense more active? Does that
See,
how
for
it-
example, if a sense of smell is excess, it's in the middle sense. And middle
Yeah.
sense is about connecting with the world. So bringing in the sense of taste, and in essence, basically bringing in choice, bringing in that boundary, okay, of I will choose what I have to take in life and what not. That's the way to balance.
Okay.
Deepa, I think more of us have said ego,
Ego, yeah, absolutely. And
balance.
one of the thing to balance ego is to what would I say? Is basically to get into reflection, the mode of reflection, the mode of being completely attentive to what my needs are, and where am I over, where am I under, who am I in the core of my being. One of the things that currently that I'm running as a cohort, which is called reflective practices, this is one step in that direction, where when you reflect and when you, for example, I can just, shall I share my screen?
Yes.
Do
Yeah, if
you have it
everybody is
open,
responding, we can stop
Ashwini?
the.
Do you have that open?
Which one, Deepa?
The reflective practices ka.
I can do that. Just give me a second. Go on. I'll just parallelly open that.
I have it. So I have it. Shall I share?
Yes, you can share.
I don't know if you've seen this before. There are many things.
Yeah, we're able to see the leading with presence document.
You are able to, na?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at the leading with presence now, for example, this is going to be the first 7 weeks. So the first thing we work on is essence of your name, and we work on the essence of your name with sounds. Okay, with knowing who we are, knowing the sounds of bringing in vowels and consonants. So we are kind of balancing the excess that we have, Sarajot. This is one. And then when we look at personal storytelling, we're working on the sense of ego. When we look at somatic and body practices, we are working on the lower senses. When we look at mindful movement practice, we are working on the lower senses. Befriending your critical senses is the inner critic is your middle sense. Exploring the center and periphery is all the senses, right from the first to the ego. So it's not that so thoughtfully I created, but when I was preparing for this, I realized that, oh my God, I never realized unconsciously I prepared this, as a connection with the senses. It was all unconscious. And I believe that reflective practices is the core to authentic leadership and presence. There is nothing else. Yeah, it could be your practices or it could be these practices. The second one is about holding space. It's a 2-part journey. One is 7 weeks and one is 4 weeks. So here it's about cultivating self-awareness, safe space, deep listening, and boundaries. So you can see just with the heading that how the different senses are kind of brought in, and it enables you to really look at this course from the senses perspective. I will ask Ashwini when she shares it, I'll ask her to share the brochure.
And I would like to also add, I have done this cohort a few months back. I think I was part of the first cohort with Deepa. And it allowed me, the last 7-8 years, I've been personally in a journey of knowing more of myself, going deeper, inner work, all that. Having done that, this cohort still felt like, because in life, phases keep changing. It doesn't mean once you do the inner work, it stays with you throughout the life. You'll have to keep adapting to it. Application is very, very important. Knowing is not sufficient. And that's what these reflective practices did to me. Every tool that we use, a journaling tool, a mandala, any reflective practice, it actually helped me adapt my thinking, all of that, to what phase I am in right now. And how can these reflective practices actually help me ground myself, activate my senses, be closer to who I am, how I feel? This is what it gave me. And then the second part of the journey, where she spoke about holding space, it actually these reflective practices help me go a lot more deeper in layers. And how do I apply it, take it back and apply it in my own context, personal context, professional context? That is what it is, a very experiential journey. There's no much of talking there. Every session was experiential.
Yeah.
And I just had to be there, go there for the session and just be there. And of course, Deepa, knowing how to guide us through it, being part of a group also accentuated that experience, I would say. Different people coming with their own experiences, their own self-awareness. That was another layer to the whole journey, I would say.
Very true. Any other question?
Deepa, I have a question. Sometime back, you shared a screen which was the circle. With if you could share that one. So when I saw movement, it is linked to language. So one of the question that came up for me is, so it's not so it says higher outer senses
Yes, yes.
language.
Yes.
But what came up for me is that it's also linked to the inner language that I have, right?
Yes.
So when I am I'm incorporating movement and there is a balance, there is an impact on the language that I use with myself also, and then it's also there with the outer world.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And actually, movement, it's a self movement. This is something I realized in my practice with eurythmy. In eurythmy, when we dance, we don't use mirrors. Unlike any other, when I did Bharatanatyam, I had mirrors all over. My rehearsals were all with mirrors. In eurythmy, we had to activate our inner eye and correct our own movements to reach that aim, that wherever we want to. And I realized that that was the biggest experience of self-movement, which is knowing from the inner that is my hand in the correct direction, correct position, and then change it. And when I developed this, in the last 9 years I've been practicing, the way I vocalize things, it is so clear. It is so clear. And just Hali May, there was this, I applied for this PSAI award. And I know I was a finalist. And I'm like, really? Am I so good? I did not know. It is not about award, but it's just that some recognition coming in. It was to an extent that you will not believe, Sunita, I have gone to Koramangala. In Koramangala, I've gone to a place to tell him, can you teach me how to speak? Because I'm so bad in communication. I was there years ago and they told me, madam, your English is fine. I cannot teach you. I never realized that it was not about English. It was about that witnessing myself, which was not developed at that time. With self-ment, that got developed. So it's very subtle. And the other thing is that when children have learning difficulty, when children have delayed speech, okay, the way to work on speech is to work with movements. What we used to do is I used to crawl with a child. We will climb stairs, crawling, upar se niche, okay, to develop speech and language. Because that's Steiner's indication.
And when it comes to the life and the concept, could you share a little bit on that? Because it's not very clear how, what the concept that we're talking about here.
Concept is basically articulating an experience into words, into a concept. And life sense is really about, do I experience myself fully? When you experience yourself fully, you are able to articulate that completely. So when language is there, then you have a sense of the fullness of it, then you are able to put it into a concept. So that's the trajectory actually. And when you put it into a concept, then you feel full. And then that's when you stand upright. the image of actually the upright human being, let me show it to you, is at least this is how I have got it. It is like this. My feet my
Yeah.
feet are apart, and this is a star position. Okay. So
Yes.
this is the whole human being, and this is and my gaze is exactly in the front line. Upar nahi, niche nahi. Exactly here. And I am light. I am a beam of light. My light starts from the center. I'm radiating, and the way it goes is, from the head, it goes to the right leg, to the left hand, to the right hand, to the left leg, and to my head. And then it circulates, and I am that light beam. So the image for ego is that, and ego concept is just before that. So if there is a deprivation in the life sense, there will be holes which dissipate this fullness.
This fullness.
Yes. Okay,
And
so
one has to work on that.
on that, yes, correct. This doesn't mean that we don't have illness. We will have illness.
Hmm.
Illness will be there. Pains will be there. Discomforts will be there. But what is that awareness I'm working with that illness with?
So it could be that there is illness, but then the person is not too engrossed in
That also. Yes. Yes.
that
And
they are
and
still
I
doing
can
whatever they
identify
need
it.
to do.
Yes. Correct.
They're not caught up in any
Correct.
negativity also.
Correct.
They are
Exactly.
accepting that, okay, there is illness and let me do whatever
Correct.
is required.
Yes, yes. Also going beyond, concept is also going beyond the thought that I don't want, I dislike a healer. Like for me, I don't believe in healer, because healer is doing something I don't know. But when I had the issue, I went to healer, I went to astrologer. I have never used astrology even for my marriage. But my life sense says that I must do everything because I want to know what is it.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you, I just got another thing in my head that this thing, does it also mean that, if I have a greater life sense, that I can understand my body better. So even if there's a pain, I can judge whether it's going to be life-threatening or not.
Yes, correct.
So, I mean, is it right to say that when we hear people that, they just developed some illness suddenly and they didn't come to know, they led such an active lifestyle.
Correct.
So is it okay to interpret it that probably they never had that life sense operation or they never listened to the body that closely?
We'll have to check with them, because it's not a direct correlation, but there is a high possibility. Yeah. It's like that, there is this frog ka example when you increase the temperature, it doesn't come out. Suddenly, it jumps out. Or
Yeah.
it dies
Hmm.
because it was so comfortable with the warmth. It's like that. So a person with life sense will know even when it's on a slow burner that I have to jump out because I'm going to lead there.
So in a coaching conversation, Deepa, suppose I am sensing that, with my client, this is something that is not right for them, but they are not open to receive it or they're not able to sense it. Then how do you handle that?
You can't handle it. You can share your sense.
And just
Like
keep
I
it
have
there.
shared my sense.
Mhm.
It has not worked. But 1 year later, they've come back and said, you're right. Because it has stayed. You offer a sense without any attachment. So they agree.
Okay.
Because in real time, you feel it.
And I
Yeah.
think while Sarajot said that, I think that's what coaching conversations otherwise also are. The value is always not tangible, or it's not even immediately post a session or during the entire engagement. Could be months later, post
Yes.
engagement later, where there's no direct correlation that we can make saying,
Yeah.
okay, coaching gave me this. Maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I have seen that they always take the coach along with them in their, they always take the essence of the coach, not even the coach. And that is why I have seen that a coachee, after let's say 4-5 years, when the new hurdle comes, When a new expansion possibility comes, they come back to the same coach. Although you can't say, in these many years, they'll come back. But development is like that, it has planted expansion possibilities at certain age points. So I know if I have a client at 19, when next they'll come to me. When after that, I know it. I have mapped it. There is a high possibility. If they are okay with your presence, then they'll come back. They carry the coach because the coach has made a difference to them.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody else? Or sharing your thoughts, experience?
So, Deepa, if somebody in a coaching conversation is like, they say it that, I'm struggling to think, I can't think, it's too stressful, it's so difficult. What does the meaning of go within mean? So that means what is that sense which is coming in their way, or they don't know anything about themselves? What is it that I can interpret this as a coach?
Can you repeat again? I lost you for a
So,
bit.
yeah,
What?
if a coaching client is saying that, I'm struggling to think, I mean, I can't, what is it telling me that which is the sense that's not activated or which is not?
The higher order senses, but it can easily be connected to the lower order. It could be
Yeah,
light
that
sense.
diagram that you showed.
Yeah. The high thinking matlab it's higher order sense. Action matlab lower order sense. I can't take action is lower order sense. I can't feel is the middle sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so one is you can put them in that bucket. And then you can look at it, are they not able to conceptualize? Are they not able to know who they are? And then you can identify it. There's a lot of reading material online.
Yeah.
And most of the times, I have seen touch, life, warmth compromised. With adults, we don't need to work too much on the higher order senses. With adults, I see working on warmth and life sense as most important. Because it's beyond a coaching conversation. It's for life. It will impact home. It will impact how they talk to their mate. It will impact the entire ecosystem. It will impact everything.
Thank you. This was really insightful. I mean, the way you present it is like very so logical it looks. Yeah.
Wow. And if you say it's logical, then it's an acquired sense because that's not me. I would have never picked this because it's very conceptual. But it was a challenge for me to see, okay, let's see if I can demystify it.
Because it's actually demystified. So if a layman like me is like even going online to read, I don't know what to read or where to look. So I'll get like bits from here and there.
Yeah,
But
correct.
it's here like you brought everything together and now I
Correct.
know what to read about, even if I
Correct. Exactly. Correct. Yeah, there's a lot. It is very confusing. And Rudolf Steiner's language is very, very hi-fi. It's quite spiritual. So, itna samajh pakad mein nahi aata. There is a book. This is like a masterpiece for me. This is called The 12 Senses. But I have had this in my library for the past 10 years, but I've still not read the whole thing. And there are underlines and all of that. But it's very difficult to completely understand it. And it talks about anatomy, and senses are also connected with the planet, with the zodiac. It's connected, it has got lots of connections to a lot of things.
Okay, thank you, Deepa.
Thank you.
Deepa, Varsha asks, dilemma versus decision making, which sense one has to work?
Come back to this. See, if you see this one, we said that this is about discernment. Where is the discernment? Sorry. So this one. So allow, what to allow, what not to allow is one sense you can look at. Yeah, decision making. The next you can look at it as ego. I can't decide if I'm not stepping into my power. So this also you could look at.
Which we need to understand who am I or what are my needs.
Hmm.
Is that where come?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Who am
Yes.
I? What are my needs? And
Yeah.
on what basis will I decide? So the decision is the discernment there, but on
Mhm.
what basis is the ego?
Can you make it a little more simpler, Deepa?
So whether I allow this experience to come to me or not
Mm-hmm.
is a sense of taste.
Hmm.
But on what basis I'll take that decision? I'll take that decision based on who am I, what is my
Mhm.
context at this point of time, what is my vision, what am I chasing, and all of that. That becomes a part of sense of ego.
Okay. But if this is a challenge for someone, then is that the sense of taste has not been developed well? Is that the understanding that we can take? Because sense of
Actually,
ego comes at a later point. Or, I mean, sorry, you said it starts
it's
right at
together.
age 3 as
Yeah,
well.
it's actually together because sense of ego, all of this are developmental till 21. After that,
Hmm.
it grows.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
right now you would be 30, 35, 40. I don't exactly know your age.
Yeah.
So right now everything is developed,
Hmm.
but some are more than the other. So sense of ego also should be developed. At 37, you 30, 31, 30 to 33, you have crisis moments. They're
Hmm.
called Christ years. And by 36, you're actually asking, who am I? Why am I in this world, etc. So that is like the point of development of the ego in a full-fledged manner. First it is at 3, then at 9, then 18 and a half, and then next it happens at 37.
Oh.
So at every point of time, sense of ego is developing. It's becoming more and more pakka. Now, if those ages you have not developed it, anybody has not developed it, then it will be underdeveloped. So it's an opportunity.
Thank you.
The
Okay.
more I hear about it, the more questions I have to myself also, and the more observations I do on different parts of me, different parts of life. And I think this masterclass is barely a dip into what we could explore more.
We are expanding thanks to Deepa.
I tried reading about this before even Deepa spoke about it, and I thought I understood everything. And now when I sit through the masterclass, whatever I read was nothing.
Yeah. It is a very vast topic, and more we read, we can add layers to it. And this is my understanding. It's not that it's all complete and full. This is where I have come. Keep growing. Okay.
So it's 8. If there are no other questions, then we will close. Thank you so much for staying on. And thank you, Deepa, for putting this together in a very, very simpler form for us to understand and comprehend. And I think it makes it a lot more easier and welcoming for us to know more about this. It doesn't overwhelm. Thank you for that. And we will, of course, share an email with the recording link if you want to revisit the video, and also other brochure that Deepa shared about and other reading links, if any, we'll share it on email.
And any questions you have, yeah, write on the group, wherever.
I'll also share Deepa's details on the email, so you can reach out to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Good luck with everybody to work on your senses and discover more.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.